I don't know if you like this or not, but you've kind of made the documentary a little more mainstream than it used to be.
You know what? The word documentary is such a poor word because it encompasses everything from like the political advocacy of a Michael Moore or Morgan Spurlock's type of films, like Super Size Me. You've got Errol Morris's Fog of War, highly beautiful stylized things. Werner Herzog makes documentaries. There's, cinema verite. There's all this different stuff. What happened is that the Civil War, when it came out, was sort of a watershed moment, and people suddenly looked up. And we're getting tired. Hollywood, when the number one movie's like a third-rate TV show from the 60s, that those forms are a little bit tired. Those plots are a little bit saggy. And that you suddenly turn around and find that in the story of your neighbor, or in the story of, a guy down the block, is as dramatic as anything Hollywood puts out, then I think you begin to realize there's a possibility in documentary.
What's your favorite? Oh, sorry. What's your favorite documentary that you didn't do?
I have a lot of. I've seen a lot of them. I love that Fog of War.
Fog of War was amazing.
Fog of War was awesome.
Just about anything that Errol Morris does, I really, really love. I remember early on, I'd seen this film about the Yukon Gold Rush from the National Film Board of Canada, and they had still photographs sort of set up in the scene. And I suddenly had this sort of aha moment of getting inside them. I had originally wanted to be a feature filmmaker, but what I do, and this follows what we were talking about earlier, is I want to treat an old photograph the way a feature filmmaker would a wide shot. That is possible of a close, a medium, an extreme close, a pan, a tilt, a reveal. And I don't just want to look at it. I want to listen to it. Are those troops tramping? Are the cannon firing? Are the bayonets clashing?
So that's what the amazing part is. If you would have a photograph of a battle sequence, the way the camera's moving on the photograph, the sound effects behind it, you don't need a moving picture.
That's right. Well, this is what we did. There is not one single photograph of battle taken during the Civil War, and yet it moved because of a really complicated sound effects track, and that's what we also do. And all of that footage from the Second World War comes to us completely silently. None of that stuff was taken with sound. So it was incumbent upon us not just do the tramp, tramp, tramp feet of the Germans marching through Paris, but to add, in some cases, hundreds of effects at any given moment, or sometimes just flies buzzing and water lapping around the debris at a Pacific island after a battle when you see American bodies floating there. Those two effects, the lapping water and the buzzing flies, does it all. Or sometimes it puts you in it. And we got to know, what does a German 88 sound like fired a half a mile away and right next to you, and what does the shell ejecting, sound like as it hits metal or dirt or snow or mud. And if you put those together, man, that still photograph or that newsreel, that silent newsreel, is suddenly looking like it's happening now. And
it comes to life, absolutely. Hey, we got Steve, who's in the Army. Steve in Jersey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, I was a Marine. In '03, I went to Iraq. And I just want to thank you guys. I love your show, and I'm really glad that someone's talking about this, because post-traumatic stress disorder, which I have, and a lot of guys I know have, it's just something that most people don't understand.
They don't understand, and we're so grateful for your service. And I think the thing is that, you go into war, and you're a human being. You want to live, and every day you've got this stress that at any moment it might end. Of course you're going to come back and have something. And we've given a name to it. We didn't have a name back in the Second World War. And there are exponentially more Second World War veterans suffering than that, only because so many people were in uniform. It is going to happen when you go to war, because here's the compact, that we turn these young teenagers and 20-somethings into professional killers. Let's not kid ourselves. That's what we're asking them to do. And then when they're brought home or the war's over, you say, okay, don't be a professional killer again. Stop. I mean, and the momentum of that terror does not stop just because some officer or some piece of paper says it's over. It goes on, and as we know from our World War II guys, it's still there. And the best thing we can do as a country is not be ostriches, bury our heads in the sand and figure out what the next thing I need to buy in order to be cool is, but to spend a little time with them and just honor it. I mean, whether it's this gentleman who's just called in or our grandpa, whoever it is, and that's all. It doesn't take any work. It's not homework. This is not obligation. It just makes good human sense.
We got Janet from Pennsylvania. Janet, what's up?
Hey, I just want to say thank you to all the American women and men that are fighting for our freedom. And my dad was in World War II and involved in an incident that was kept top secret by the United States government for 50 years and just started talking about it 10 years ago. He was on a English transport ship that was sunk by the first guided German missile, and more men died on that ship than the Arizona.
And they couldn't talk about it because they were anxious about the technology that the Germans had just unleashed on them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the men that died on that ship, their families were not told until 10 years ago that they died on the sinking of that ship. It was the HMT Rona.
Wow, you know, we find this time and time again. They didn't tell the actual casualties of Pearl Harbor until well after the war, and specifically what ships were lost and the full extent of it.
Yeah, because who would want that information out there?
They just didn't want the enemy to know how successful it had been, and they, you know, war is about lying.
And we assume, because in this day and age, we get a lot of information very quickly, that the day it happened, everybody knew all the details and what happened, and that's just not the case.
Think about it today. We're not allowed to see, you know, the government's forbidding, as they did in Vietnam, and the first go of filming the caskets coming back.
Right.
Something that Americans saw all the time. You'd watch cargo ships unload these flag draped caskets in the big netting, you know. People would see on railroad stations this stuff. They'd show that stuff. Roosevelt made the decision to go against the censors and show Americans what the cost of war was at the Battle of Tarawa in late 43. I mean, it was a tough decision. Today, there's nothing. If you want to find out what's going on, you almost feel like a pornographer searching the net, you know. You have to find that stuff, and it's not necessarily coming from an American source or a European source, but often from an Arab source that's gloating over the success of the kill, you know. And you know, we're in an age in which we're saturated with media, but we don't necessarily know as much as we.
I think we absolutely should know what the cost is. I think that's common sense.
And then we honor not only her father, but his service right now. Whether you agree with the war or not, you got to understand that Americans are in harm's way at this moment.
Phones are lit. One more call. Charlie in Connecticut. What do you got, Charlie?
Hey, man, I just want to say I love the change up the show. I'm extremely patriotic. I love your views and your innovative ways, Burns. You're awesome. And to Jimmy, man, you're awesome. But I hate your face.
It's very hateable. That's why I do radio, LOL.
Jimmy, you're the man.
Thanks, buddy.
It says you're reading Ken's book right now?
No, I actually had to I'm reading it for sociology, and I'm getting through it. I've never read a book in 5 years.
All right. Thank you, Charlie.
You're inspiring.
Of course, he's a fan of mine. I read a book in 5 years.
And Jimmy had a book out, so big fan you are that you didn't read Jimmy's book. That's our music, Ken. We've run out of time, but this was a very interesting hour.
I knew having Ken on would be great. I've been a huge fan, if you may allow me to gloat a little bit and kiss your ass a little bit. I've just been a fan for years, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So it's the war, it's the book, it's the CD, it's the DVD. In stores now, and you're doing a signing here in New York at the Time Warner Center in Columbus Circle. The Borders, this Wednesday at 7 p.m. And then downtown McNally, Robinson Booksellers at 52 Prince Street this Friday at 7 o'clock, right? And you're working on
National Parks, update on the baseball series, history of Prohibition, Vietnam. We're going to start working on.
Oh, wow.
You're insane. And Jeffrey Ross, we're going to have Jeffrey Ross back soon.
Yeah, Jeffrey. Sorry, man. You know, come on. Ken Burns, for God's sake. Yeah, talking to your banana.
All right. Ken Burns, thank you so much.
And you know what, Jeff? The least you could have done while you were here is plug my New Year's Eve show at the North Fork Theater. What? That's what Jeff could have
done. No. Whore.
What? What? I was trying to help Jeff out.
I'm going to be there.